I don't think movie stars are born. I think they're created. And I think looking back over the years to when the big studios were active and they would find a beautiful person, whether it's Rock Hudson working as a truck driver or Lana Turner working in a coffee shop, you will find someone who has that indefinable something, that it factor. And the studios would use all of their muscle to transform that person, to metamorphose that person from an ordinary human being to a star, to a movie star. And when you say, what road do they walk? Well, they don't live in the same world as you and me. Everything's done for them. I think there is a risk that they start believing the publicity that surrounds them. And I think once they fall into that trap, you know, Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard, for instance, once you fall into that trap, I don't think you ever escape it. It's a gilt cage.
A star is not essential to the promotion of a film, but a star will open doors for your marketing machinery that might otherwise stay closed to you. The media, the film journalists that we work with will know most of the actors we're talking about, but the film journalists that we work with are reporting up to editors whose concerns are surprisingly not just about film, they're dealing with world events, so they are not that familiar. So a film journalist who wants to get a story into the paper and has to sell it to their editor can sell it into the paper much more easily if a star name is involved, and the editor goes, yes, I'd like to hear about that film. I'm simplifying wildly, of course. So a star name opens that kind of door for you. It means ready access to the media.
Early on in somebody's career, it is important to have them featured in certain magazines, certain newspapers, particularly in what has emerged in the last few years of these great talent spreads that lots of people do. And to have someone in an emerging talent section, those are important. As they get further on into their career, I mean, there are certain clients that I have that 5 years ago I couldn't beg people enough to get them in magazines, and now you sit back and you can say yes, no, yes, no.
There are a huge amount of magazines devoted to covering films and show business and the arts that need their pages filled or their online pages filled. And so there is a huge demand for material, much more than there was 20 years ago. But you've still got the issue of, I've got a film that I want you to write about and you're not interested, or I've got a film that everyone wants to write about, but I can't give you access to the filmmakers because I don't have enough time in the filmmaker's schedule to give everyone access. You want it, but I can't give it to you. So our job at that point is to manage that and to prioritise and to decide which publications get what access, to divide up the stills so that the best stills go to the publications that you have deemed are going to be the best places to put them. And then there can be some grief. You've got to, because you're saying no to people who feel that they have a right to have access to the material that otherwise you're sometimes trying to shove at them. That is a balance that we have to manage.
Certainly with some of our younger actors, one of the first things we want is to get the right type of coverage to build a portfolio of coverage. Further down the line, when someone is looking to hire them for a job, they also want to look at their commercial viability. They want to see if the media are interested in them, if they have media scope, and if they're going to be able to support the film in a way that will work with it. So I think there's a massive importance in the early stages of the career. I do also think the role of a publicist in terms of what an actor will do further on in their career, part of our job is to create a comfort zone, is to make them, they're doing part of their job that isn't their job. I mean, it's like asking an accountant to do some legal work for himself. It's a byproduct that legal stuff has to happen, but in this game, they actually have to do it themselves. So if we can create a comfort zone for them on all different levels, then they will undertake more, and there is obviously a trust relationship between a client and a publicist, which means they will do more. So I think when they do that, that's reflected on how much they support it, and I think at any stage there's plenty of actors who have reputations for not doing certain stuff with their film, and equally there's young actors coming up who are like, that's great. Producers look at it when hiring them and saying, well, you know, all these magazines are tipping him as being one for the future. Maybe we should get him with him now.
We have an accommodation with personal publicists, and the studios have had to reach an accommodation with them because the actors are all powerful now with the demise of the star system, and the power now rests not so much with the filmmakers, except with a Steven Spielberg and so on, but it rests with the actors. They are required to do a certain amount of publicity, but probably they don't end up doing as much as you would like or as much as the filmmakers. It's always the best endeavour that they will spend time doing interviews, but it doesn't always happen.
Not all that long ago, if somebody like me wanted to do an interview with, I don't know, Martin Scorsese, Michelle Pfeiffer, Harrison Ford, you name it, I would get in touch with their people, or somebody from my office get in touch with their representatives and say, look, you know, I'd seen the latest film, liked it, I would like to talk about it. And then we would arrange to meet at a time and place convenient to both of us, and we would talk for however long it took. But then, of course, we entered the age of the celebrity culture, you know, and everyone went mad. And now every program on television wants movie stars, every radio program wants movie stars, every magazine, every newspaper. And this has thrown power to the publicists that they really do not deserve. And so the days of those one-to-one interviews are pretty nearly over. Now you get the junket, where if you're really lucky, you have 15 whole minutes. You know, come on. You can't do a decent interview in 15 minutes. And that was one of the things that made me determined that the right time had come for me to give up, because I didn't want to play that game.
I'm not absolutely sure when the press junket was invented, but certainly within my lifetime in film PR. And it's a mechanic by which the filmmakers all get together in one location to spend 2 or 3 days relentlessly talking to the press, and the press all come to that location and talk to them one after another. And it's actually not very pleasant for the filmmakers, and it's not very pleasant for the journalists, because it's a bit of a hothouse. But it is terribly efficient, and it does mean that people do get to sit down and talk to the filmmakers where they might otherwise not be able to, because the filmmaker's time is limited.
It's impossible in many ways to control a big star. They will do what they want to do. It's far easier and more preferable to control the press. Now, the idea of you going in there to do an interview is that you, as the journalist, will be promoting the project that they are there to sell. They want you to be positive, to write a good review, to write a warm interview piece on the person that you're talking to. So when they send somebody in there with you, they're there as an observer, but also as a spy. And if you say or do something that they don't like, they can end the interview forthwith. They can ask you not to ask that question or to not pursue that line of questioning. But on a harsher level, you can be blackballed, and suddenly you don't receive invitations to interview people connected with this particular studio or this particular distributor. And that's never made plain, and it's never opened up to you. You simply don't get invited anymore. And that has happened to people, not to me, but it has happened to people because they're not prepared to play the game. And I think if you don't play the game and you delude yourself that you have rather more freedom and autonomy than you really have, then you're a fool, because you have to do the little dance that people expect you to do. And if you don't know how to do it, you better learn it.